but MBZ, what have you been playing? Because I have dived into this game a little bit, you might say.
Yeah, and you also played it multiplayer a few times before, haven't you?
Yeah, I've played it multiplayer a little bit with friends who've been at mine, and this game is obviously Runbow, which was also part, and we keep mentioning this all year, don't we? The Nintendo Humble Bundle.
It is, yes. That's one of the... I guess if you want to put a phrase on 2016, it would be Nintendo Humble Bundle. That kind of makes up the bulk of a lot of our chat. But it's a cool game. It's interesting. And I have basically beaten it. When I say beaten, it means I've gone through the kind of main single-player stuff. Seems to be a lot of modes on the main menu, have you noticed, Bally?
Yeah, it's quite intimidating, isn't it? It's sort of... The first thing I looked at, I was like, where actually is the single player? Because it sort of splits multiplayer modes. Its menu is almost akin to something like Smash Brothers, really, in a weird way.
Yeah, it does kind of have that feel to it.
It's a lot of modes.
Yeah, totally. So there's online stuff which I don't think allows me and you to play against each other. It seemed like I jumped into it real quickly, and it was like, hey, add another player. So it's like, you could take two people locally and play online against other people. Maybe it lets you do friend stuff, but it seemed like random matches. So I was a little bit wary of that.
And I couldn't find anyone. I tried it for a bit today, and I couldn't find anyone online.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a Wii U indie game that not a huge number of people bought, and despite the Humble Bundle, that was a while ago. I guess if we had tried playing this when it came out with the Humble Bundle, there would have been way more people probably, getting it for the first time and trying it out. But that's the thing, when the install base is this low and you have that kind of niche of a market for these smaller games, yeah, you probably won't be able to find anything when you're jumping online, which is a shame, because I think that this game probably shines the most when you play it multiplayer, and that's what I discovered when I was playing through the single-player game, is I found the game kind of bland. It's cool, and it has some neat ideas, and essentially the premise is it's a platformer where you are challenged with various tasks in each level. Sometimes it's simply get to the end to find the trophy, sometimes it's kill this certain number of enemies, other times it's collect this currency, and along the way, the levels, you basically pick from this menu, which is basically a chessboard. And the idea is you beat a level and it kind of unlocks the ability to do two levels adjacent to it. It's kind of like, your Smash Brothers comparison before. It's like the challenge board in Smash Brothers, where when you beat a challenge, it kind of shows what you need to do for the adjacent squares. So you're essentially like looking down on this chessboard, and I think they're color coded, so green, orange, and red, which indicates easiest to hardest. So you can kind of maybe try and take a path of least resistance. And the essential premise is you have these 4 different squares in the different areas that are boss stages, and you essentially need to make your path through this entire chessboard to those 4 stages to ultimately unlock a final kind of battle at the end. And it's very short. It's a campaign that you can blast right through. I beat the whole thing yesterday, and it only took me maybe 2.5 hours. But there's some interesting stuff in there. For me personally, the physics are not the greatest. They seem like they were designed for multiplayer and to have a lot of chaos going on, to the extent that they don't really feel that refined. The animations are not very expressive or exuberant. They're very kind of stilted. And I did find moments where I was kind of like, not necessarily glitching off things, but having hitboxes and things like that kind of whack me away and around that didn't feel natural or that fitted with the groove of the game. Bali, you've played like a few stages. How do you feel about the movement and the controls and everything? Is it jiving with you? Because I know you're less sensitive to this stuff than me.
I think the controls were fairly average. I mean, I would agree with you. They're not incredible, and obviously I'm not as pernickety as NBZ is when it comes to controls. And I
have a sixth sense in myself.
The Mario Karts all feel the same. Just don't deny it.
Don't. You're so wrong. You're so wrong.
But this game, I thought the controls are fine and they work really well for what this game is going for. In terms of like the structure of the levels and the main central mechanic of the color changes within the platforms. So the platforms are all different colors, but when a platform matches the color of a wave of background that comes onto the screen periodically as you're playing through the stage. Certain platforms appear and reappear based on the color that's about to take over the stage. I'm not sure I explained that terribly well, to be honest, but it's
quite hard to explain. But it's almost I wouldn't say it's necessarily rhythmically with the music, but it does have a beat to it, with the sense that like every however many seconds go by, a different color will change to what the background is, and they do give you an indicator for it, so it is well telegraphed. It's like, okay, there's a sequence to it, so you know what they're going to rotate between, and there's also a little kind of, before it fully goes across, it kind of peeks out and shows you, oh, orange is coming, get ready, and then it's orange. So it gives you time, if you're standing on that colored platform, to be like, okay, need to get ready, make sure I'm out of the way before this happens, because it's going to screw me over.
Yeah, and I think it works well, and it's a neat thing. And you're right, from the single player I've played, it does feel a bit lacking. It's a bit sort of platformer by the numbers, and obviously the unique selling point of this game is I believe the multiplayer goes up to 9 players, which is kind of just like a really cool, original, unique thing for a 2D platformer to do. So I definitely would like to try to get as many controllers and people in a room and just have a go at this at some point. I'm not sure how confident I'd be in getting that number much beyond 4 or 5 players, but I think I'd like to try that before sort of coming down on this game hard, because you're right, it's not doing enough that's very special, really, in such a obviously 2D platformers. We've played many 2D platformers that all do incredible things, and it's not cutting the mustard, is it, really, when you compare it to them?
And that's the problem. I think it is hard to criticize a game that is primarily built around multiplayer when you don't have the means to access it that way. I mean, if you were someone who played Triforce Heroes, for example, and could only play that single player, well, that game's like a fucking 1 out of 10, because you literally have to have like the most dexterous, like ridiculous skills as someone playing that game to even feasibly get through any level, because you have to do everything for yourself, and it's designed around the fact that you shouldn't be having to do that. And these levels do work single player, I'll give it that. Like, it's not the case where, like Triforce Heroes, it's completely broken. But yeah, it feels like those mechanics are there to screw over multiple players on a single screen. So say, you know, the orange platform is the safe one and you're the one occupying that space, while someone else can kind of kick you off it and then take it for themselves. And that makes a lot more sense in the context of, hey, this is kind of it's a competitive game, and it kind of encourages people to screw with one another. I wouldn't say it's this is a phrase coined by Total Biscuit. It's co-optional, which is the name of his podcast, but it's the idea that you have a cooperative game that can alternatively be competitive if you want it to. I don't think this is necessarily a co-optional game. It's very much a first person to past the post. But there are some nice things about it. I really like the fact that it includes a bunch of shout out, should I say, to different indie games, different really characters. Cool. Actually, when we interviewed Peter at Gamescom, I believe that he mentioned that the Teslagrad kid was a unlockable character in Runbow. And so we have a lot of these nindies kind of getting together and throwing their characters in there. I believe Shovel Knight's a part of it. I haven't unlocked him yet. But I did unlock Rusty from Steamworld Dig. I have unlocked Commander Video from the Bit Trip series. So there's lots of cool crossovers going on there. There's also DLC to download Lilac from Freedom Planet and Shantae from the Shantae series, of course. So that is cool to see. I do like this notion that all these indie developers are kind of, you know, banded together in the trenches together. They all kind of support each other. They're in each other's games. It's cool. It's like the Smash Brothers effect, but amongst all these different studios, like within their own games. It helps like promote each other and just, you know, the sense of community, I think that's great. And Runbow kind of lends to that, because you want to have a community of people around to play it. So it does make sense. And I don't know, it was challenging, it was fun, and it was, you know, there are some cool ideas in there and some cool mechanics and some levels that you really kind of almost bang your head against and you're like, oh man, this is actually pretty tough. Like, you definitely need to be on your game. There are some things they throw at you later on that you're like, wow, this is actually pretty neat. And I kind of think to myself, some of those harder levels, like, I don't imagine how, if you have 9 people, anyone gets to the end, because me on my own with no distractions, still really difficult. So, like, trying to compete with people while trying to get across sounds like a bit of a nightmare. But that's probably what they're going for. They're probably going for this whole idea of just chaos. And I can appreciate that. So hopefully one day I'll get to play this multiplayer. For now, it was fun. It was a short experience, but if you have this in the Humble Bundle, I recommend checking it out for a couple hours. It's not going to do you any harm, so definitely give it a go. It's Runbow. If you enjoyed this discussion and would like to hear more, consider subscribing to us on YouTube and following the podcast playlist. You can also find us on iTunes and various other places. Follow us on Twitter at TNL Podcast and email us thisnintendolife@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.